Today, we're going to have some fun. For our guest, we have Jessica Lewis, who's the founder of Rise Up Queens, and we're going to get real and have some very challenging conversations. A lot of these conversations people are not regularly having in our society today. Jessica has some pretty unique perspectives working with women. She runs the only faith-based personal development seminar for women who want to tap into their feminine and break through either trauma or break through things that are preventing them from being truly free. And so she has some unique perspectives, and I can't wait to dive in and have some of these hard conversations with you. You've worked with many women, you have a marriage transformation seminar, you know what it takes to make a great marriage, and so let's dive in. I'm happy to have you, babe.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's dive into kind of a fun conversation that you've been having recently regarding the alpha female. What is that, and how does it show up?
Oh man, it's funny because I feel like I was the alpha female in an unhealthy way, right? Society tells women that you can have kids, you can go to work, you can be a wife, you can do all of these things and somehow do it well, right? And I got so mad the other day. We were watching the Super Bowl, and there was that commercial where they portrayed Zeus and then his wife, and Zeus couldn't even turn on the microwave. And his wife's like, "Oh, honey," and she went and click, click, click. And it might have been an amazing commercial, but just the portrayal of men being weaker. It's like society wants women to take the lead and women to be the strong ones and women to do that. And I did it for a good portion of my life before we met each other. And I created a lot of disaster. And I believe I carried a lot of things that God didn't intend women to carry in marriages. So at Rise Up Queens, I had to discover this feminine side of me. I lost it, whether it was through childhood or the way I was raised. For some reason, I lost it. And when I entered in our relationship in the beginning, I wanted to be in charge. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be alpha. But it wasn't from a healthy place. It was from an unhealthy place of, I'm going to keep you at a distance, and I'm going to use that in order to stay in control and use that so that you can't ever hurt me, or so that I don't have to be fearful of anything.
How does the alpha woman show up in relationships? Because when we first met, it was interesting because you had just got out of a relationship, right? You had just gone through a divorce, and you did not want to be the leader in the relationship, but you still had that tendency to want to control things and want to still run, but consciously you're like, hey, I really want someone else to be the leader because it caused an incredible amount of stress and strife in your life. So how does the alpha wife show up in relationships?
So the unhealthy alpha wife shows up in comparison. So I would constantly compare myself to you, and I always wanted to be better than you. I was always judging myself against you, yet we were supposed to be partners. We were supposed to be we would complement each other beautifully once we realized that we weren't supposed to be the same. So I wanted to be better than you, right? I wanted to lead the business. I wanted to make the decisions. I wanted to be in charge at the end of the day, and I was going to challenge any authority that would stop that. So I believe the alpha female, the unhealthy alpha female, uses that strong personality as a way to keep their spouse at a distance, right? I didn't want to, if we were going to get in conflict, I was going to hurt you, you weren't going to hurt me, right? I was almost, in a sense, playing not to lose. I think of it as playing not to lose in marriage. I was dominated with fear. And fear of what was going to happen. So I constantly, unknowingly thought of ways that if you left me, then I'm going to do this. There was always a plan B. There wasn't an all-out commitment. I wasn't playing to win. I wasn't 100% in. I was guarded, and I wanted to make sure that no matter what, if you weren't going to hurt me, I was going to stay in control.
That's so good. Yeah, I think we can do that on both sides, right? It's I see this battle in a lot of relationships where the man is trying to take control, right, of the relationship, and then the woman, right, is also battling for control, and then they're going head to head, and it's causing strife, especially high performers, right? It's especially because there's obviously incredible women that want to be stay-at-home moms, but for those women that have this desire to also go achieve and compete in the marketplace, which is fantastic, they don't know how to turn it off at home. So they're battling at home with their spouses, bringing that same energy, that masculine energy, back into their house. And then men are kind of confused, right? Do we battle back? Do we, like, what's our role? Are we supposed to compete back? How do we manage this thing? And it's confusing because society, right, like you mentioned, tells women, hey, like you need to be in control. Like you should be leading. And the Bible says something completely different. And so you also mentioned this conversation of commitment. I'd love to hear, like, what was the major shift? We've seen that a lot in relationships with the marriages that we've worked with, where there's just like they're not committed. They're not all in on the relationship, willing to do whatever it takes, right? They're kind of one foot is out, ready to go if that other person does something that they don't like. And so how do you describe commitment, and what are you seeing when you're working with wives?
So when I think about commitment, I think it's even a level deeper, right? Because commitment is what it shows up as. But like, why do I not show up committed, right? What are the reasons that I'm not all in? And the word like self-preservation comes to mind, right? Like my interests are in myself. Like I come first in this need, and I believe it's deeply tied to like conditional love. Like for some reason, I was bred with this conditional love. Like if you're gonna withdraw love from me, then I'm not gonna give it to you. Like I didn't understand just that concept of unconditional love and giving, even if I might not get it in return, or giving without expectation, and being able to show up for you in a way like that no one's potentially ever showed up for you before. And I believe like you've modeled that to me, and it's still my tendency to self-preserve, to look out for myself first and look at my interests first and then take you into account. But I believe like Jesus calls us like in a whole nother way to show up in our relationships. Like if we did our marriages as if we were doing it unto the Lord, it wouldn't matter whether you responded when I showed you love, right? I could just give love and not have to need anything in return. If I was allowing him to fill me, I could give to you, and eventually you would give back. Like that's just naturally. However, that wasn't my natural tendency. I was preserving me and making sure like I was playing not to lose. Like I wasn't going to get hurt again. I wasn't going to have someone have that type of influence over my emotions and influence over my heart anymore.
You had to surrender. Right? Yeah, right? We talk about, there's a book, right, that mentions surrenders and talks about surrendering, right? That's kind of a challenge. And the way you laughed about that was pretty funny. When I mentioned surrender is a hard word for a lot of women, right? And it takes a man that can show the loving care and trust for a woman to be able to also soften up. And this is interesting, and I'd love to hear which is first from your perspective. And I work with the men, right? So from a woman's perspective, what are you teaching the women? But before we go into there, go ahead.
It's so funny, like when you said that word surrendered, it makes me think that there are women that watch the Rise Up Queens video. And in the video, I talk about becoming the feminine woman that God has called you to be, right? And somehow the society has almost brainwashed us or made us believe that feminine equals weak. And so women see this video and they're like, I don't want to have anything to do with Rise Up Queens. I'm not weak and I don't want to go there. That seems soft. But it's actually where I've found like my power, like my ability to flow through. Like one of my favorite authors is Laura Doyle. And she gets constant criticism because she's teaching women how to surrender and like how to be feminine, how to live it out. But she's all for women in the marketplace earning as much as men, and all for women achieving in business. She's like, I'm going to achieve on the outside world, but when I come home, I want to be worshipped. And if I bring that same energy back home, I'm not going to be worshipped. Like, it's just not possible because we are going to be battling it out, right? We're both going to be struggling. So when I come home, like, I want to soften, right? I want to be taken care of. Like, I want to be loved. I want to be nurtured. I want you to take the lead role and me not carry that stress when I'm home, even if I am out in the marketplace, like driving and moving things forward. So I believe like some women would think the word surrendered and like feminine equals weak, right? But it's not the case. I don't think I've changed. Like I am a go-getter. Like I am a driver. Like I get things done. And in learning how to access that feminine side of me, I believe I've been able to create this polarity between us where we're attracted intimately to each other, and the fun that we have and the playfulness that we have wouldn't be possible if I didn't understand and learn how to use that skill in my intimate life with you, or even my everyday life with you, or with my children, for that matter, right? The mom that's like this, and this, versus the mom that's like, okay, guys, let's do this. Like that mom, when I bring that out, I get different results.
So good, and I love that you're able to teach that, because on this journey, working with men at Rise Up Kings, right, the challenge has been they're on this journey of stepping into their greatness, of becoming the man that God's called them to be, but then many times their wives are not on that same journey, right? They're used to the old man. And so I think you bring in this powerful, right, part that, I mean, you help a woman start to soften when they've learned to harden from all the years of their view of their man not stepping up. They've hardened, and then you've brought that like teaching. It's just incredible, right? You get to spend time developing and working with women and helping them soften, helping them tap into their feminine, helping them be still high achievers, right? But then learning how to soften and learning how to look up to their husbands as the leader. Yeah, it's powerful.
It's funny as you're saying that, it makes me think of like the walls. Like a woman can't soften if she doesn't know what walls she has won, but then underneath that, like what brought those walls, right? So at the events, we get to dive deeply into like, where did this come from, right? This is a learned behavior, just like the way we relate to each other. Based on the way I respond to you, I teach you how to interact with me, right? So you would bring great conversations to us, and what I thought was conflict. And my view of conflict at one point was, I don't like it, and I want to avoid it. I want to do everything to it. So when you would bring conflict, I would bring this bigness, and I would try and shut it down with anger and rage and frustration and just this bigness, right? And so I then trained you to not bring that for a while until I was willing to shift in me. Like I love what we do at Rise Up Queens, because no matter what you do, I'm responsible for how I show up in the marriage. I'm responsible for whether like I'm acting controlling, whether I'm showing up in anger and rage, whether I'm getting frustrated. I am in control of my perspective and what I focus on. And that is so powerful, because so often I talk to ladies and their focus, like their perspective is all zoomed in on you guys. And I get it, because I used to be like that. When I wasn't growing, when I wasn't moving, my focus was on you and what you weren't doing. But in that, it's like as if I had blinders on and I couldn't see all the other good things that you were doing. And so it just took a shift in perspective. So I love bringing that to light in events and noticing, oh my gosh, okay, and not right or wrong and not bad, but just like, all right, this was ineffective. Like this wasn't working. This isn't creating the result that I want. But to get past that, someone has to get like real, and they have to be willing to say like, this isn't working. I hate it with everything in me that so many couples are surrendered to good in their marriage. Yeah. Stuff isn't working, and they're not willing to have the courage to have the hard conversations and to break through. And sometimes that breakthrough takes a level of commitment that you've never had before.
Preach it. No, it's powerful, right? The good to great conversation. And one of our core values at Rise Up Kings is truth, right? Telling the truth. Yeah. So many couples, they're like, yeah, everything's fine, but they cover it up, right? They cover it up. They cover up all of the things that are really challenging, the things that should be addressed. They cover them up and they say, oh, my marriage is good. Yeah. When in reality, there's like a monster under the rug that's growing, right? That's literally growing until they get to this place in their marriage where they're like, hey, I don't love you anymore. Right? I don't feel connected emotionally to you anymore. It's because you didn't go address those things. It's because you settled for good. And yes, good marriages can make it, but on the other side, man, there's just so much, right? There's just so much power. There's so much fun. There's so much epicness if we dive deep into exploring what and being able to be real and say, my marriage actually isn't where I want it, right? Hey, it's a level 7 or 8. Cool. I really want to get it to a level 10. Then I want to get it to the next level 10. Not only in our connection, right, in our intimacy, in the bedroom, in the way that we communicate, like in each way, I want to get it to a level 10. And that's truly my passion with you, babe, is I want to continue to be willing to, in companies, right, companies that we work with, when I do coaching, and you know this, when I walk in, like when we start to make changes, like stuff starts to get worse before it gets better in almost every single company that I work with. And so I let the owners know, and I say, hey, by the way, are you willing to go there? Are you even willing to go there, or are you okay just with where it's at? Yes, it's hard right now, but are you willing to go mess stuff up? Are you willing to throw a wrench into things to make it better? Are you willing to lose some key team members right now? Are you willing to have to go through changing out softwares and the chaos that comes with that to get to great in your company? And so, like, some people are not, but many of them are when they see what's on the other side of that. And so that's the same thing in marriage. Are you willing to mess with things? Are you willing to get off the status quo? Yeah.
As you were saying that, it made me think that so often people, when we say, oh, we do marriage retreats, they're like, oh, yeah, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. But what has to come before that is the interpersonal work. Like, so often it's easy to just want to work like on the togetherness, but until I worked on me and getting whole for me and like healing trauma, as I healed me, I was able to relate to you and see you in a different way. Right, but until I got whole individually and was able to see what is actually triggering me, what's bothering me, I had to get curious. And I feel like I just had a call with the ladies yesterday, just kind of about this curiosity. Like, we go so fast sometimes, or I've noticed like it's just task, and we're not curious about the things around us. We don't think like, okay, I'm upset right now. This is a red flag. Like, why could I be? What could have triggered that? What's really going on? What's the story I'm telling myself about this right now? Right? And is it effective or ineffective?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm reading a great book, and it talks about we don't see reality, right? We don't see the actual reality. We see the way the reality occurs to us. We see the way that, it's our version, but it's not real. It's the way it occurs to us. And so we think like, oh, my husband's a certain way or my wife's a certain way. No, it's the way that they occur to you. It's the way that you see them. And when you change, right, when you evolve, you start seeing things different, right? The way when the way you look at things changes, the things that you look at change. Like the things you actually look at start changing. And so we have to be willing to say, hey, maybe my reality isn't real. Maybe like the way I'm looking at things isn't actually the right way. Maybe I'm way off. And we have to, that's part of growth. That's part of being open. And many times I am way off, right? Many times I have certain thoughts and conversations and ways of looking at things that are actually backwards or that are missing key points of data or information. And so I have to be curious enough to go and say, hey, maybe there is more in the relationship. Maybe I'm missing something, right? It's when we think we know it that we get stuck. But we have to be willing to constantly say, hey, I'm open to the idea that the way I'm looking at this and the people around me are not actually what's happening. It's just the way I'm looking at it, the way it's occurring to me. Right.
But in order to get to that, I mean, man, that takes a drop in pride and ego.
Yeah.
Because so many of us, myself included, I want to be right? And in order for me to be right, you're going to be wrong. And so that takes a willingness or a curiosity to.
You have to drop the pride. Yeah, we just had a conversation with, I was talking to a coaching client. They just got in a fight with their wife, and they were battling it out. And I had the conversation, somebody has to be willing to drop their pride to move on from this. And it's the pride, it's the ego, it's the wanting to be right that causes us to get stuck, right? And we have to be willing to say, hey, I'm okay being wrong, And so that's hard in relationships. It's an ego thing.
Yeah. What you were saying earlier makes me think, Laura Doyle, the author that I love, talks about spouse-fulfilling prophecy. So it's one of the tools that I teach to ladies. And so I had a coaching client, and we were talking, and she used this tool. And so she says, even though this isn't reality, I'm going to speak this into existence. Kind of like what the Bible talks about. Our words are powerful. Our words bring life or death. And she would talk about, her thing was that her husband put dishes in the dishwasher, and they were always dirty, overly dirty, so they would come out dirty. And she said, Jessica, I felt like a crazy person. But I started to pull the dishes out of the dishwasher and say, wow, this glass is so clean. Because what she used to be doing was she would complain to her husband and be like, you always put the dishes in the dishwasher dirty. You do this, you do this, you do this. And nothing changed. So the conversation of spouse-fulfilling prophecies came up. And she's like, okay, I'll give it a try. I'm gonna and it sounded crazy, but she just started to say, wow, these dishes are so clean. Wow. And she's like, you know what? The dishes started to come out clean. She's like, I don't know what shifted or when it happened or if he started cleaning them better, but I changed, I created the reality that I wanted to see. And I believe we can say, oh, my husband doesn't want to spend time with me. And if that's the story you continue to say to yourself, that is the evidence you'll gather in your daily life. You will see and focus on all the ways he doesn't spend time with you, when in reality, he probably is showing up sometimes and he is going out of his way, but you can't even see it because it's not in your belief system. So the way reality occurs for you, right, you can't see that. You have blinders on and you only see him a certain way. And so one of the things that I've had to learn to do with that is if there's something that I'm needing or something that I'm desiring, if I want you to pick up your clothes and I've asked you to do it a couple times and you don't do it, if it's important to me, I can just do it. I can either get stressed out about it or I can just do it, right?
No, it's great. I'm thinking back, right, over the last couple of years, your level of critique around me has dropped to almost zero. So I rarely ever hear you critique anything. Why are you doing this? Or what that doesn't even happen. You don't ask, why am I doing this? Or why can't you do this more? Or why? It's just, you just share, it's interesting, you just share what you need. Hey, you've been working a lot, it's all good. I would love a little bit more time with you. Right? That's how you critique now.
Mm-hmm. And I would have before, right? So the alpha female would have been you don't care about me, you don't spend time with me. It would have been all about not putting you in a position to actually want to do it. Mm-hmm. I have the control with my language and the way I show up and the way I ask for things. I can create life or death. I can say it in a way where you 100% are never going to do it because I've attacked you. I've attacked you as a man and how you show up, right? Or I can, in my feminine, I can call out, right, my desire and ask it in a way that you want to meet it. I believe men and husbands want to be their wife's hero. They want to show up. They want, you constantly, I remember, you always used to say, I just want you to be happy. Just tell me what it is. I just want you to be happy. Yet, I believe in our language, we learn as women to, one, we don't say what's actually going on. We don't ask for it in a way that makes our husbands want to do it, right? And then we nag and complain and just go about everything in such a wrong way that actually pushes our husbands away versus pulling them in.
Mm. Yeah, you've shifted, right? You've shifted our entire relationship that way. And it's funny. It's what comes first, right? The guy starting to show up, or the woman starting to soften and have that. And I think it's a combination of both, ideally, right? It's a combination of both. The men really stepping up and loving on their wives, right, and building them up, right, and just women want love, right? Men want respect. We need respect. Women need love. We both need both. However, that's primary, and so I give you the love and take care of you and and supportive of you, and you therefore want to respect me. You don't want to critique me on everything, right? You want to give me space, and so it's powerful. It's powerful when couples actually take marriage as a journey of personal growth. Hey, how can we level up?
It's interesting. One of the phrases we say often is appreciate what you want more of.
Yeah.
Because so often I think that when I was focused on me, I remember I would always ask you, hey babe, do I look good in this? Hey babe, you didn't tell me that I looked nice. Oh, do you like this dress? It was always about me. And then finally one day you're I would love to know that I look good too. And I was oh my gosh, I've literally made it all about me. And so I've intentionally tried to appreciate everything in you that I want more of, right? So for example,
that's good.
One of my things that I had asked was for you to set up a date night. And I was babe, I just want you to be more romantic. I want you to do this. And you got tickets for us to Wicked. And we had already seen Wicked before. And I saw the credit card thing and you had spent a lot of money. And I was oh my goodness gracious, right? And so the first instinct in me was I asked you to do something and you did it. But then I wanted to critique you, and I wanted to say, oh, you didn't do it right. Oh, you shouldn't have spent that much money. You should, it's as women, this control thing is like, I have to fight it every day because I wanted you to do something, you did it, and then I was going to tell you how you didn't do it right. And that was not going to make you want to do it ever again. It's like I had to bite my tongue. Even when we were there, you wanted to leave. And I was like, we are not leaving. I am going to appreciate this. I am going to say thank you for this. I am going to be grateful for this. And I am going to just fully accept it and like receive. So like that's another conversation we have. Like, how do you receive graciously? Like when your husband does something for you, or when someone else even tries to help you, you're like, oh no, I don't want to inconvenience them, right? When of course you do, right? You just don't know how to receive it. Like, and be gracious about it and say thank you.
So what you're saying is marriage is very easy.
No, but it can be figured out.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like I believe like Emerson Eggeritz in Love and Respect talks about an energizing cycle and this other cycle, the cycle that doesn't work. Yep. Right? Like I believe we've learned this rhythm of like, as I love on you and give you what you need and show you respect and show up, like we have the conversations like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I be better for you? And I don't think those conversations are hard for you, but they're hard for me because my brain wants to go to, I'm not good enough and take it personal and look at all the things that I'm not doing. It's easier for me to focus on the things that I'm not doing. But like I still, out of courage, say like, how can I show up better for you? Like I want to know. And so our desire is both to pour into each other. And then when we pour into each other and it gets mistaken, because oftentimes like couples have great intentions. They want to show up for each other, but somehow the other couple just misses it and they don't see it. Like they don't like, they're like, oh, like a woman will want flowers and she'll be like, I want flowers. And then the husband brings them and she's like, well, you just did it because I said so, right? And we're like, what is that about, right? Like he actually showed up, but you're going to now complain that he did what you wanted him to do? So I believe we've found this energizing cycle where when we have an upset, we bring it up. It doesn't just get shoved under the rug. We talk about it and we clear it. So like, I don't hold resentment towards you.
What's a recent upset that we've had where I've messed up on something?
I don't know. Do you have one in mind?
I'm just curious.
I don't know. I mean, most of our upsets are like when I think you're like, when I mistakenly see your intentions as trying to control me versus trying to help me.
That's your trigger, right? That's kind of one of your biggest triggers is when I do try to fix you.
Yeah.
Right? Try to fix you.
And no one likes to be fixed. However.
Totally. Oh yeah. That's a journey that I've had to be on. That's a challenging journey. Me stopping to try to fix everything that you do, right? If you don't do something right, or you need help with something, or you cry out and say, hey, I'm struggling, my natural tendency is to want to fix it. And I'm good normally, right? I fix employees' problems, I fix company problems, like that's what I do, and that's what most men do, and that is a major challenge. And that was hard for me to start to slow that down to where when you say, hey, I'm struggling with this, and like the answer that I believe is literally right there, right? I'm like looking at it and it's very clear to not give you that answer, to say, hey babe, I love you. I'm here for you, I'm here to support you. And so, because you don't need the answer, you're smart, right? Men, women, we're intelligent. We don't need to be fixed. We just need somebody to be there to love on us and to support us. Unless you say, hey, I need help with this problem, can you help me fix it? Right, then I'll provide the answer. But yeah, that has been one of my challenges for sure.
I can tell you what could have turned into a fight with the old me recently.
Okay, go ahead.
So yesterday we were talking about like my health stuff, right? And I have just different challenges with my health, and I was listing them all off. And I wanted to be right about it. I was almost, you didn't say it, but you kind of said it, or I got it, that I was being a victim. And you were like, well, I have this, and this. And the old me.
That was poor empathy on my part. Right, she's crying out for help saying, right.
I feel so sad about this.
Well, let me list my challenges that I have, right, very poor empathy. It was from a good place, right? Because I saw where it was going.
Yes.
But still.
No, but the old me would have been like, no, I'm more like, so if that was a cry for help and you met that with another cry for help, right? The old me would have cried louder, right? And been bigger. And like, it would have had to have been about me.
What did you shift? Yeah, what happened where that didn't turn into a big fight? Because that could have easily turned into a fight. So what?
I think I've become more comfortable with my ugliness. The ugly sides of me and the things that I hate about me, the things that I don't like about me, the things that I don't want anyone to know. Like, I had this perfectionism miss that, like, I needed to be seen as this. I had ego. Like, I needed to be seen as perfect, right? So anything, any conversation that
you are perfect, babe, and there's no ugly parts of you.
Any conversation with you or conflict with you where you brought out that ugliness, I had to defend that. And so it would I would defend it by anger, by attacking you, by discounting you, by displacing it on you, by minimizing it. I would do everything to not see that. And I think my relationship with me being willing to see that with me with no judgment, no story, no defining who I am, has transformed the way that I can communicate with you and be with you, because I was kind of being a victim yesterday. And you didn't say it to me, but I was able to have a different relationship with it yesterday, because before my brain would have started spiraling and I would have been mad at you. I would have made it about you. I would have said you're attacking me. I would have said all these things in my head, rather than yesterday I was able to just be with it. Like, okay, there are solutions around me. I can do something about this. I'm not a victim to this.
So good, powerful, right? Because I love what you said about just accepting and acknowledging the ugliness that all of us have, right? We all have ugly parts, but we try to hide it. We put a mask on. We try to pretend like we're not, right? But we have like, I love that word actually, ugly. We have ugly parts of us, right? We have ugly parts of our body, our mind, our thoughts.
I rebuke that statement.
Yeah, we have parts that are just, call it what society says is ugly, right? Let's embracing fat, right? Like, it is what it is. Like, just not judging yourself because you have that, or not judging yourself because you have a thought that you shouldn't have had, right? Or because you turned it, right, we're going victim, or because I messed up again by, right, not answering to a solution the right way, or not addressing something, not addressing a cry for help, right, with a loving response, right? So I failed in those moments, but then I don't judge myself. And so learning to say, okay, cool, I messed up, right? And acknowledging that instead of saying, no, I didn't mess up, right? Oh, no, I'm going to compare to, I mess up less than other people, right? And then comparing my ugliness. Well, I'm not as ugly as that person. Just being with it, right? Just saying, okay, cool. I got challenges, I got issues, and I'm just gonna learn to live with it. That is a powerful way to live, and a powerful place to be, and a way that you can love other people, right? You're not judging other people based on your own insecurities that you're bringing forth. Like, the more you can say, hey, I'm ugly, there's ugly parts of me, I'm beautiful and I'm ugly, right? Yin and yang, right? I have beautiful light and I got a darkness inside of me, and that's okay. Right? And then I'm gonna go continue to love other people and love their darkness, love their struggles, love their challenges, love who they are or who they're showing up as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like it ties back to the ego, right? Because if I need you to see me as this. Like, I've told the story, but a big shift in this came with your mom. Like, your mom wanted some furniture from a house that we moved out of, and I was like, totally, I will give it to you, right? I would love to give it to you, yes. And she followed up with me about the furniture, and 2 days prior, I had asked our assistant to sell it, and she sold it. And your mom came, and she's like, hey, so what about that furniture? And I was like, oh, I blamed it on our assistant. I was like, oh, I told her to sell it a long time ago, which was true, wasn't a full lie, and she sold it, oh, I'm sorry. And as I've been working on just being with how do I want people to see me, and how is that not true? What is I was like, I called her and I was like, hey, I just want you to know that I was totally selfish and I lied to you. That, it wasn't the truth that I told her a while ago.
That is a ballsy move. I was very proud when you said that. Yeah, that was.
And I was like, I told her to sell it, and why I did was because I was just being selfish. I don't want to deal with having to get it to you, and I made it about me. So will you forgive me? And because I want her to see me as the kind and loving and caring daughter-in-law, right? Mm-hmm. So and normally my brain would have just justified the lie and said, oh, no, but that's okay, because oh, it would have been a lot of work. And it would have been a lot of work to get it to her, but I said I would do it. Right? So it's just so interesting how we justify things that we know aren't right
To protect our ego, right? To keep our ego, to protect the image that we have of ourselves, which is ego.
Oh, I'm kind, I'm loving. There are times I'm not sometimes.
Yeah.
I am selfish, but I don't want to see those times.
Yeah.
But when I have the courage and the willingness to, only from that point can I change. And only from that point can I show up different in our marriage.
You are a powerhouse. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
If I have so many thoughts and questions. I wish we could go longer, but maybe we have a few more minutes. So what would you say to what is one of the biggest things that you're seeing as far as transformation from women that go through the Rise Up Queens event? I don't talk about the Rise Up Queens event a lot, right? Because it's obviously your deal. But what is the transformation? I'm curious. Like how can you really transform a woman in a couple days? Like, can they really change, or is it like, is that even possible? And if so, what do you see as the major shift? Right? They're not made perfect, but what's the major shift that happens from the way they walk in until how they walk out?
I think when they come to the first event is all about awareness, right? And so we deal with baggage, we deal with lies. Like up on the stage, I have my baggage, right? That I'm an adulterer, that I was abandoned as a kid, that I was cheated on. Like just all the stuff that I carry with me that no one knows. All the stuff that I bring into every single relationship that I don't talk about. We talk about the stuff that's not being talked about. So somehow these women come out and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I mean, literally, I have women in there that think that they're the only ones that struggle with anxiety. I have women that have shared things for the first time that their husbands don't even know about them. Like there's this space where for the first time, maybe they can just see themselves as they are and that be okay. And then they can create a space of like, okay, this is where I'm at, but this is where I want to be. Like, it's almost like it's the truth. Like they're able to face like the truth of what's actually going on. And at the exact same time, they discover their relationship with their body. I mean, just intimately, I was disconnected with my body and intimacy. Like I don't know, like there was lots of shame. There's a lot of shame around our bodies, around our sexuality, around our vulvas, around intimacy. Like there's just, women carry a lot of that shame. So then we discover like the weight of that shame and like what it looks like to let go of that. And like, what if we were, just for an instance, we're able to see, just for a moment, see our body the way God sees us and see our naked body. Like, I don't have them get naked there, but like their naked body. Like, what if like they just begin to develop this new relationship with the ugliness, the new relationship with the truth of who they are? Because only from knowing where you're actually at and being willing to face it can you create any change. Like, so we get to like some of the roots of some things. So then long term, as they continue to work with me, they gain tools to say, okay, like this is showing up, right? Whether it's ego or pride, or I'm controlling, or I like talk down to my husband, or I'm constantly complaining, but I don't know how to do it any different. So then we work through tools of like, how do I want to show up? Like, who has God called me to be as a woman? Because like men are called to be one way, but women are called to be another. And there's a way that works and there's a way that doesn't work. And so thankfully, I knew very well the ways that didn't work. So we talked through what will work. And so the women that long-term work with me they have more intimacy. They have more connection. They're able to actually be true and live authentically. They don't have to hide behind, especially with their husbands. The person they're going to spend the rest of their life with and have an opportunity to have the deepest connection with, they don't have to hide behind that fakeness anymore, and they can actually create vulnerability in a way that they've never had before.
That's so cool. And I know you haven't, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you haven't really, maybe you've thought about it, but what's your vision? What's your vision for Rise Up Queens? Like where do you see it going? And how is God going to use you through this thing? So it's pretty powerful. Again, I don't know of anything like this, right? There's women's retreats, right? That only goes so deep. This is a faith-based, like you were tapping into women's, right, trauma, their fears, their challenges, their insecurities. You're helping them become more feminine, right? Through movement, through just really like powerful stuff that you can't get at church. right? And so what's your vision? Where do you see this thing going?
Well, I feel like your vision is to awaken a generation of men, right? So it'd be
Well, that is my actual vision, but
but to awaken a generation of women that live in the freedom that Christ has called us to. He says we're free when we're believers, but we don't live free.
No, the work's been done, right? The work has already been done, right? Christ died. It's finished. The work is done. We're set free, yet we live trapped in fear,
And bondage.
in anxiety, in bondage, and all of these things, but we're truly set free. So there's a disconnect there, right?
Yeah. So then as these women can live in their freedom, then to collectively, right, we can then transform marriages. Like we can change, like an awakened man and awakened woman, like that's someone who's going to go impact their community. That's someone that can go run Bible studies and be the light, like truly be the light on the hill and love how Jesus loved. But if I don't deal with my ugliness first, I can't, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no, if we don't heal the soul, right, and the heart of a human being, right, and make that whole, right, God's done the work, but there's still work we have to do. If we don't do that work, then we're continuously living as broken human beings, and I don't believe we're called to live as broken human beings. Like, yes, we're going to have some sins, but we can live very healthily, right, and we can have incredible marriages that are on fire. Like, that's what glorifies God. By that, like having a marriage that's on fire, that's passionate, that's thriving, right? To have a business that's doing well, that's where you're taking care of your employees, a body that is healthy, where you're taking care of your body, a faith that's continuously evolving and growing, and right, that relationship with Christ, like that glorifies God.
I don't know why the picture just came to my mind was that verse in Solomon where it talks about, may her breast satisfy you always, right? May her breast satisfy you always in marriage. But if she doesn't view her breast as beautiful and doesn't have a healthy relationship with her body, I can't let them satisfy you forever in marriage. That was a little...
No, it's divine inspiration, right? We prayed that God would give you the words to say. So that's fantastic. It's it's powerful. There's when you start healing some of that stuff and start, right, we talk about ugliness, but in reality, it's beauty, right? The ugly parts of our body. But it's when we get past that, then we can actually start to see the true beauty that's there. But it actually starts with acknowledging the areas we don't like instead of pretending like we don't like it. Hey, I don't really not like my. It's like, yeah, you do.
There's all perspective.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like on social media, there's always that picture of like the cat in the mirror, but then it's the lion. But I think we have it like opposite. Like we are the lion, but we see ourselves as this little cat. Mm-hmm. Like we have this warped perspective of what's actually true.
Yeah.
So I challenge women to break that up. Like, what is the truth? And then how do you stand in that truth? And then from that place, what do you want to be? Who do you want to become? What do you want to show up as?
Fantastic. I love you brought so much wisdom to this conversation. I appreciate you, babe, big time. You make me, right, the work that you're doing, right, is causing and inspiring me to continue to level up and to continue to grow. So for those of you that are listening, it's obvious, right, she's a powerhouse and doing some big things. So I'm grateful for you to jump on and take time out. And actually, these are fun. We got to do more of these for sure. I think we mentioned that the last time we had a great conversation, and then a year later, right, we have another conversation. So hopefully we can get some more of this content out there. And thanks for pouring your heart out into women and transforming marriages, all for the glory of God.
Amen.
Love you.
Love you.